Pacers up 2-0 after unbelievable, game one win, an unbelievable comeback in game two, beating the Cleveland Cavaliers. I saw some meme posted on social media on a Thursday morning. It's the Peter Parker meme of, him with the glasses off. He sees the Cleveland Cavaliers from this season. He puts the glasses on. Things become clear. He sees the Atlanta Hawks with Paul Millsap and Kyle Korver and Jeff Teague. Is that fair or unfair that this year's Cleveland Cavaliers might be some of those Hawks teams of old?
I think it's unfair just because, you obviously have them dealing with injuries. You've had Garland miss both games. You had, Mobley miss last game. You had
Hunter.
When you have three key players miss, that's hard to say. The other thing that, a lot of people obviously are very hyper focused on the Celtics shooting struggles, which is a real thing, them being 25% from three over the first two games in their series. But the Cavs have, were a 38.3% three-point shooting team for the regular season, and you haven't seen that at all. When you talk about them in game two, they were 28% from three. In game one, they were, I think, 24% from three. So I think the Cavs are struggling with a little bit of what the Celtics are struggling with. They're not making shots that they're accustomed to making. And so, I think that once they get their full team healthy, we don't know, what that looks like. I would guess being down 2-0 right now, I think you'll see players start playing through some of the aches and pains that they maybe were trying to, postpone and see if they could steal one or two without them. But I think it's unfair just because they've been dealing with injuries, and sometimes those things are just out of your control.
Well, when it comes to some of these shooting struggles you see overall teams have, how much do you think this is something the defense is doing? How much is this just small sample size? How much of it is the tired legs, especially, for Boston? They win the title last year. Then they play, four of their guys play in the Olympics. It's another long season. Cleveland, they're going, start to finish this year, full throttle, best team in the Eastern Conference. What do you contribute to these elite shooting teams having such big drop-offs in the postseason?
Well, if you look historically, normally shooting percentages go down in the playoffs. I think the biggest reason is refereeing completely changes. It's like a completely different game. Like every NBA player I've talked to has been like, the NBA needs to make a decision. Are we not going to call fouls all year round, or are we going to let freedom of movement all year round? We can't have the whole season we're playing and training and doing everything one way and then a complete change with no memos, it's just the rules that are the same rules are now applied completely differently. And so I think freedom of movement changes a lot of it. You'll see guys that they start to drive and they're getting two-hand checked and they don't call it anymore. So now there's not as many, help and recover situations. I also think that because the intensity is higher, your legs do get more fatigued and tired. You also see that a lot of the stars get guarded differently. Teams are trying to, like we talked about with the Jokic situation, teams are trying to actively take away the strengths of those teams so much more that now their star isn't able to kind of cook and operate the way that they normally do. And so now the others that aren't used to having to create their own shot have to create their own shot. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into overall numbers dropping. I think the number one thing is the physicality, puts a damper on your legs, but also it just contributes to the amount of blow-bys there are and the amount of open shots that are generated because of it. And then I think there's obviously also the pressure that's on the line as well. So I think all those things blended up, I can't tell you what, piece of the pie is what, but I think that's why traditionally you've seen, that in the playoffs, it's all about winning. It's not about the efficiency. It's not about the numbers. It's not about, kind of the raw analytics. It's more about, can you get it done when it matters most? And I think that, for both the Cavs and for the Celtics, I think they have to find a way to knock down the shots they're accustomed to making if they want to get back to the number 1 and 2 seeds that they were all season long.
You mentioned teams are trying to take the, number one option away from a lot of the star players, trying to take away what they want to do. They defend them differently. We're seeing that with Cleveland and Indiana. Haliburton's getting picked up full court. They're face guarding him with Okoro, and it shows in the numbers as well with the way Indiana is responding. Regular season, Haliburton ran 27.7 pick and rolls per game. Nembhard ran only 14.9. First round, Haliburton 32.4, Nembhard 17.6. In the semis through 2 games, Haliburton 21 pick and rolls per game, Nembhard 29 per game. So how have you seen Indiana adjust to this defense with Nembhard running a lot more pick and roll than Haliburton is?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Tyrese is one of my clients, so we're making some adjustments that I won't share. But one thing I will say is they've done a lot better job of trying to take him out of the game, and I think they've done a good job of it so far. You look at some of the numbers you talked about from ball screens, but his overall touches. I mean, last game in game 2, Tyrese had 23 front court touches, which was one of the lowest he's ever had. When you look at even like Tyrese is such an engine as far as making passes and stuff like that, regular season, postseason. But I mean, passes received, him actually catching the ball, normally 74 a game during the regular season. That's down to 57 in this series.
Wow.
So, he's just they're not getting him the ball as much. I think that you've seen Tyrese make some big shots. You've seen him get downhill when it's crunch time. But, not only have they done a good job on Tyrese, they also limited Pascal Siakam last game, which was, it's hard to limit 2 guys. It's one thing to limit, Tyrese to 11 field goal attempts, but they held Siakam to 8 field goal attempts last game. So I think Cleveland is doing a really good job of, trying to take away those, strengths of Indiana, those 2 players. But I think Indiana has done a good job of maintaining ball movement without those guys as the focal point. And I think that the other thing that makes Indiana so good is as a team, they share the ball so well. And so if Tyrese doesn't have the ball and they're playing 4-on-4, it does open up the gaps for everybody else. And so that's what they've kind of done is they've kind of used Tyrese as a decoy in a lot of key moments, just to let the other guys play 4-on-4. And when he needs to sprinkle in, then that's when they're doing some other actions. And, one of the things that particular has worked well is when they've got 3 guys up at the top of the key. So instead of setting a traditional, ball screen, that's one screener, one guy using it, they've been putting 3 guys, like a 77 action up top, where now there's confusion on who do we switch? Do we, go with the roller? And so I think you'll see a lot more of that, a lot more split screens off the ball to cause confusion, a lot more kind of jumbled up, actions where one guy's getting a handoff, one guy's screening, one guy's slipping. And overall, Indiana's done a really good job of kind of countering that, which is something that Cleveland's going to have to make adjustments for.
You mentioned like everybody has talked a lot about Haliburton, the way he's been defended, and obviously he comes up super clutch end games. He's been able to spring loose and make monster plays. Like that game winner was awesome. It was just an awesome play. But being able to take away him for long stretches of the game and limit Pascal Siakam, and yet Indiana's up 2-0, and part of that, Cleveland's missing some guys, but Andrew Nembhard, dude. Like having a dude like him on your team who not only comes up with clutch plays on defense through 2 games, but offensively, man, the dude's a bucket getter and he's a reliable playmaker. Like he is. I don't want to say like everybody said Haliburton is over. Not everybody. 13 NBA players said Haliburton is overrated. I don't know who's voted underrated, but Nembhard should be voted one of the most underrated players in basketball, right? I mean, the guy's amazing.
He's been incredible. I mean, he's so tough. The thing that I love most about him is his poise, both offensively and defensively. You saw last series, when Dame was still healthy and in the games, he was picking him up full court, was jabbing at him, just to kind of try to get under his skin. And then offensively, knocking down big shots and big moments. So, I think you need those guys. I think the one thing that fans don't understand is no one wins by themselves. You know what I mean? Even star players, they need the other guys to step up. You look at Michael Jordan back in the day when he averaged over 40 points a game, one series against the Celtics and got swept. And then, then he gets a good supporting cast and he goes on and wins 6 championships. Guys can be better, but they can't win by themselves. And so I think you need those guys, and Indiana has had a ton of those guys. Aaron Naismith had some unbelievable plays
Awesome.
Down the stretch.
That putback dunk. Oh my God.
It was incredible, and so I think that's the one thing that is understated when it comes to all the attention that we give stars, is that you need the role players to knock down shots. You need role players to defend. You need role players to get rebounds. You need role players to do all those things if you ultimately want to win games. And Indiana has had, obviously those key highlight moments from Tyrese stepping up in big moments, but they've also had a lot of guys make big plays, and that's why they find themselves up 2-0.
And Carlisle's coached a great series too, I think. I mean, he plays Siakam, 13, 14 minutes in the second half. He has the other guys that he can trust. Nembhard, because he has to carry a bigger offensive load, he defends Mitchell less in game 2. Nesmith takes on a greater role. I think he had 5 possessions in game 1. Nesmith did, defending Mitchell 23, 24 in game 2. And obviously Mitchell had much greater success in game 2, but it just speaks to his talent level. But Indiana's got a lot of options and a lot of different ways they can play defense, a lot of different ways they can play offense. But ultimately for Cleveland, Mitchell can't do it all himself either. Like, he needs some more easy shots created for him by Garland. He needs more support behind him on defense with Evan Mobley or DeAndre Hunter. It can't just be all Donovan Mitchell. Besides Cleveland getting healthy, though, is there anything that you think the Cavs need to be thinking about adjustment-wise entering game 3 and beyond?
It's funny because when you look at both teams, I think if you're the if you're the Pacers, you're thinking, man, we had way too many turnovers. In the first quarter, they had 15 points. The Indiana Pacers, the highest scoring team that, normally is running up and down the gym, at 15 points because they had 9 turnovers in the first quarter. Then they had 17 for the game. In game 1, they had 16 turnovers. They also gave up a ton of offensive rebounds, 13 offensive rebounds in both games. So if you're Pacers, you're thinking, if we just limit our turnovers and we win the rebounding margin, we do a better job on the glass, man, we're really feeling good. If you're the Cavs, obviously making shots is one thing. The second thing that I think that they have to do is play less isolation basketball. And I know they were in a great spot where they could have won the game, but Donovan Mitchell was incredible getting downhill. Not only did he generate the 21 free throws, but 14 out of his 15 made field goals were in the paint. He was 1 for 7 from 3, and you could see that he didn't trust his 3 in game 1, so he kind of altered his gameplay in game 2, which was amazing. But I mean, if you're the Cavs, you're thinking, man, once our 3 start falling, and once we start generating better offense, it's not so reliant on D. Mitch just being unbelievable, which he was in game 2. We're right there. We had a chance to win game 2 without our guys once we get our guys healthy. So I think if you're in the locker rooms of both these teams, I think they both realize how important game 3 is, because if Indiana wins game 3, 3-0 is almost impossible to come back. And if you're Cleveland, you're going, man, if we win this, we're right back to 2-1 series. And now all the pressure's on them. So I think both teams are feeling good. I think that Cleveland has to generate more movement, more cutting, more screening, instead of so reliant on one-on-one, because I think the other guys are struggling, just like we talked about with Denver. The other guys are struggling generating offense if it's not within the system. They don't have as many, Cleveland doesn't have as many isolation players. And what made them so good during the regular season was they kept finding driving kick, spray opportunities, dribble handoffs, multiple actions, cutting without the ball, moving without the ball. And I think that has been kind of deflated as in this first 2 games of this series.
One of the things that's interesting to me about Cleveland's approach against Haliburton, it makes sense to do. Like, he's their best player. You face guard him, you try to take him out of actions and all that. He's a savant playmaker. All of that makes sense. But Haliburton, sometimes when I watch him, I find myself saying, damn, I wish he would shoot 25 times more often. Like, that's one of my things with Haliburton when I watch him play. He's so efficient. He's such a great scorer from all 3 levels. Obviously, he's a lot of threes and layups, but he is an elite mid-range guy. When he does take those shots, he is an elite floater range guy. It's just interesting that the guy who sometimes I find myself saying, damn, you need to shoot more, they're face guarding that guy. Usually that type of defense is used for the types of players that are taking 30 shots every single night in the postseason. With Haliburton, do you feel that he's going to have those types of moments where teams are not face guarding him, not taking the ball out of his hands, knowing that maybe he's not the type of guy that is going to be taking 25, 30 shots?
This is why the Pacers are 25-3 when Tyrese scores 20 points or more this season. So when he scores, it's actually funny, but not only does their win percentage go up, also his assist numbers go up because he's such a good playmaker. You and I, when I was on your podcast out in All-Star, we argued about who's the best passer playmaker in the NBA, and we both respectively had our different opinions. But I mean, Tyrese again is leading the NBA playoffs in assist after last year winning the assist title. So I think that the problem is he's such a good playmaker that if you do allow him to start going one-on-one, especially the mismatches that he's going to attack, because he's not going to sit there and play one-on-one against their best defenders. He's going to come off a ball screen, get the guy that he wants on him, use his hangs and his floats and get outside guys' hips. It just puts you at a disadvantage because then once he's downhill, he can shoot the floater, he can finish, or if you dare to help out, he's going to make the right play at all times. So, I mean, again, I think that as the series goes on, you're going to see them try new things. We fully expected them to face guard in game 2. That was one of the scouting things that we thought. In game 3, I think you'll see more switching and trying to run him off the 3-point line and kind of stay at home to make him a finisher. We'll see if they do that. But, that's something that obviously the Pacers are prepared for if they end up changing that coverage.
All right. Last thing, Drew, there have been 35 teams in NBA history that went down 0-2 at home in a series. Only 5 of those teams ended up coming back and winning the series. The 1969 Lakers, the 94 Rockets, the 05 Mavericks, the 17 Celtics, and the 21 Clippers. And we're in a situation now where both the Cavaliers and the Celtics are in that spot. Do you think either of these teams, or both, are going to join that list of teams that come back from down 0-2 at home?
Yeah, I think we're going to be adding the 25 Celtics to that list. I think that obviously the Celtics have been in a shooting slump that couldn't be imagined. I think some of that stemmed from the Orlando series. Orlando took away the 3-point line completely, and I think that it just got them out of rhythm, out of funk, and you saw them almost shoot too many threes in game 1. Some of them were great threes, open looks that they should have made. Some of them were quick trigger threes that they probably didn't get any daylight in the Orlando series. So they probably fired them because they were a little bit happy to finally see space and see rim. But I think you'll see them settle down. I think that, they kind of probably went away from the 3-point line in game 2. I got on Jason about passing up a lot of, ball screen threes that were there. And, he's going to be a lot better. I think that their shooters are going to be a lot better. And I still have a lot of confidence that the Celtics are going to come back and win this series.
True. Thanks for joining me today, man.
Awesome. It's always fun.